And it's these connections, these relationships, that are founded in the earliest years of our lives. People often ask why I care so passionately about the early years. Many mistakenly believe that my interest stems from having children of my own.
I think the most surprising thing was kind of clocking and just acknowledging how young she was when she got involved in this.
Can a single smile shatter silence? Inside the grand halls of Buckingham Palace, where every wall carries untold stories, one moment stirred whispers louder than tradition itself. A portrait, not just paint and canvas, but a living memory, Princess Diana's face glowing with grace. And then, a laugh.
She's such a mixed bag. She's such a multi-dimensional person and somebody who was not really given any room to make mistakes or choices, and she was so young when to me, she feels like such a powerful person. Like, her energy is so...
A laugh that should have been harmless, yet in that room, it carried a weight no one could ignore. They say Catherine, always the symbol of calm and poise, felt the ground slip beneath her feet. It was a moment where past and present collided. Diana's legacy, still alive in the hearts of millions, stood in stark contrast to Camilla's unexpected reaction. Was it mockery? Was it nervousness? Or was it something much deeper, a reminder of the old scars the monarchy has never fully healed? To Catherine, who has carried Diana's memory with quiet dignity, that laugh was not just a sound, it was a storm. This isn't just a story about a portrait or a smile. It's about respect, memory, and the invisible weight of history. What truly happened in that hall? And what did it mean for Catherine, Diana's spiritual heir in the eyes of the people? Stay with us, because the truth is more powerful than you think. The moment that shocked the palace. It began like any other grand gathering inside Buckingham Palace, the kind of event where everything is perfectly rehearsed, every smile, every bow, every whispered word measured against centuries of tradition. The chandeliers glittered overhead, the walls carried portraits of monarchs long gone, and history seemed to watch over every guest present that evening. These gatherings were not unusual, but what happened in this one was something no one could have predicted. Among the many portraits that decorate the palace halls, there is one that always captures more attention than the rest, Princess Diana's. To some, it is only a painting. But for millions around the world, it is much more. It is a reminder of a woman who broke barriers, who reached out to the people in ways no royal had done before, and who carried the title of People's Princess with unmatched grace. Diana's portrait is not just art, it is a living memory. And for Camilla, no matter how far she has come, that portrait is a shadow she cannot escape. When Camilla's laughter suddenly echoed through that hall, the atmosphere changed instantly. What might have been a small, harmless reaction in another setting became something far greater in this moment. Guests shifted uncomfortably, whispers spread, and the air grew heavy. The sound of laughter in front of Diana's portrait felt out of place, almost like breaking an unspoken rule of respect. Catherine, standing only a few steps away, could not hide her reaction. For years, she has been known for her calm dignity. No matter the pressure, she carries herself with composure, always balancing the responsibilities of a wife, a mother, and a future queen. But that evening, her mask slipped. In a single moment, her body betrayed what her heart could no longer hold. Insiders who witnessed it describe it as a collapse, not the kind of dramatic fainting that one might imagine, but an emotional collapse that was equally powerful. Her face turned pale, her hands trembled, and her eyes glistened with the kind of sorrow that words cannot capture. She did not need to fall to the ground for people to understand something was terribly wrong. Those close to her rushed forward, not only to comfort her, but also to shield her from the piercing lenses of the cameras that always wait for such cracks in the royal image. Why did this moment strike so deeply? Because it wasn't just about a laugh. It was about what that laugh seemed to symbolize. To many, it represented a clash between two legacies: Diana's memory, which still commands love and loyalty, and Camilla's reign, which continues to face skepticism. It was a reminder that the monarchy is not just about crowns and jewels, but about history, perception, and wounds that never fully heal. For Catherine, Diana is not simply a portrait on a wall. She is a guiding figure, a source of inspiration, and the woman whose memory shaped William's life. To see Camilla laugh in front of Diana's image felt to some like disrespect. Whether intentional or not, it reopened the rivalry that has haunted the palace for decades. In that room, the past collided with the present, and Catherine stood in the middle of it all, unable to hold back the weight of emotions any longer. This is why the moment will not be forgotten. Because in that laughter, people heard echoes of old betrayals. In Catherine's reaction, they saw the human cost of royal duty. And in the silence that followed, the palace itself seemed to remember that some wounds can never be covered, no matter how carefully the crown tries to shine. Diana's shadow in the palace. Princess Diana's presence inside the royal family has never truly faded. Though decades have passed since her tragic death, her memory lingers in the halls of Buckingham Palace.
The Diana, Princess of Wales, has been killed in a car accident, and that her partner, Dodi Fayed, has also been killed. They were apparently being pursued by paparazzi on 2 motorcycles.
Like an unspoken truth that refuses to be silenced. Her image is not only preserved in portraits that hang on the palace walls, but also in the hearts of millions across the world. Every time her name is mentioned, it stirs up emotions, grief, admiration, nostalgia, and sometimes even anger. Diana was more than just a princess. She was a global icon who redefined what it meant to be royal. And for Catherine, the current Princess of Wales, Diana is more than history. She is a torchbearer's light, a role model whose warmth, compassion, and bond with the people continue to shape how Catherine carries herself today. The world often sees Catherine as Diana's spiritual successor. From the way she interacts with children, to the sincerity of her smile, to the empathy she shows in her causes, Catherine mirrors the same qualities that made Diana so beloved. She isn't just living her own life. In many ways, she is walking a path Diana began but never had the chance to complete. The comparisons are constant, but unlike others who might feel burdened by it, Catherine seems to embrace it. She wears Diana's engagement ring with pride, not just as a piece of jewelry, but as a promise to continue her legacy. For the public, Catherine represents hope that Diana's spirit still lives on within the royal family. But for Camilla, Diana's memory has always been a shadow too heavy to escape. Every appearance she makes, every title she assumes, every smile she gives is measured against Diana's ghost. For many, Camilla will always be remembered as the other woman, the one who once stood between Charles and Diana. The tabloids of the past painted her as the villain in a love triangle that defined a generation, and while time has softened some opinions, that reputation has never fully disappeared. Diana was celebrated as the heroine, the victim, the adored princess wronged by those who should have loved her most. Camilla, on the other hand, carries the scars of public judgment, and no amount of crowns or titles can erase that history. So when Camilla's laughter echoed in the palace hall directly in front of Diana's portrait, it struck a nerve that words cannot describe. For many who witnessed it, the sound was jarring, almost as though the shadow of history had suddenly come alive. People could not help but wonder, was it a laugh of mockery, a careless slip, or perhaps a nervous reaction from a woman who had lived her entire adult life knowing she would forever be compared to Diana? The truth may never be known, but perception matters more than intention in the royal world. And in that moment, the perception was devastating. For Catherine, the reaction was unbearable. From the time she was young, she openly admired Diana, studying her poise, her elegance, and her way of connecting with ordinary people. She has taken Diana's memory into every part of her own journey, as a royal through her marriage, through motherhood, and now through her role as the future queen consort. To Catherine, Diana is not just William's mother. She is a guiding presence, someone whose absence still shapes their family. To see her memory treated with anything less than reverence, especially within the walls of the palace that once caged Diana, may have been too painful for Catherine to endure. And this is why Catherine's emotional collapse struck so deeply. It wasn't simply a personal reaction to an awkward moment. It was symbolic. It was as though Diana herself had been disrespected in the very place where her memory should have been most sacred. For those watching, it was not Catherine alone who faltered, it was Diana's legacy being wounded once again. In that clash of laughter and sorrow, the past collided with the present, reminding the world that Diana's shadow is still very much alive, and it continues to shape the fate of the monarchy even today. Catherine's silent struggle. Behind every polished smile and graceful wave, Catherine carries a burden most people will never fully understand. To the public, she may appear serene, poised, and endlessly composed, but beneath that calm exterior lies a weight that grows heavier with each passing year.
She is one of the most recognizable women in the world. A fashion icon, a champion of charitable causes, and a princess, the wife and mother of future kings.
Being the Princess of Wales is not only about wearing tiaras, dazzling gowns, or standing beside her husband at official engagements. It is about constantly living under the gaze of comparison, and that comparison almost always leads back to Diana. From the moment William slipped his mother's sapphire engagement ring onto Catherine's finger, a new chapter began, yet it was a chapter written under the shadow of another woman. The world instantly began to label Catherine as the new Diana, a title that was both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, it signified the public's hope that she could carry forward Diana's warmth, compassion, and humanity. But on the other hand, it set expectations so high they were almost impossible to reach. How could anyone, no matter how graceful, live up to the memory of the people's princess? Catherine has faced this challenge with remarkable patience. She has been careful never to try to overshadow Diana, choosing instead to honor her memory in quiet, meaningful ways. Sometimes it is through charities that echo Diana's passions, like her work with children's hospitals or mental health awareness. Other times, it shows in her fashion choices, where subtle nods to Diana's iconic style remind the public of the connection between them. Even the way Catherine raises her children, encouraging them to experience life beyond palace walls, feels like an echo of the motherly warmth Diana once gave to William and Harry. And yet, moments like Camilla's laughter at Diana's portrait strike at the heart of this silent struggle. For Catherine, Diana is not just a figure from history. She is a role model, a woman she admired even before marrying into the family, someone who represents everything Catherine aspires to embody in her role as future queen. To witness any gesture that could be seen as dismissive toward Diana, intentional or not, feels like watching an old wound being torn open. It is not just personal pain, it is the pain of seeing a legacy she treasures being treated carelessly. Those close to Catherine often describe her as strong but deeply sensitive. She is not someone who allows her emotions to spill out freely in public. Her discipline, her composure, and her ability to smile through storms have become her trademarks. But even the strongest hearts can bend under pressure. That day, when Camilla's laugh echoed through the hall, it was one test too many. Her mask slipped, if only for a moment. And what the world saw was not the polished princess, but the woman beneath the one who still carries the burden of history on her shoulders. Her collapse was not simply a moment of weakness. It was a reminder of her humanity. Behind the royal titles and the endless comparisons lies a woman who feels deeply, who loves fiercely, and who carries both the legacy of Diana and the expectations of a nation. The palace has always demanded perfection, But Catherine's struggle reveals a truth few dare to admit. Even in the heart of royalty, the weight of memory can be crushing. Camilla versus Diana, a rivalry that never ended. To understand why a single laugh could ripple through the palace and spark such outrage, one must go back to the story of Camilla and Diana. Their names have been intertwined for decades, bound together not just by Charles, but by love, betrayal, heartbreak, and the heavy crown itself. Even though Diana is no longer alive, her presence continues to loom so powerfully that Camilla can never quite step out of her shadow. The rivalry may have started in whispers behind closed doors, but it has lived on in the public imagination, refusing to fade with time. Diana herself once described her marriage to Charles as having 3 people in it. The world didn't need clarification. Everyone knew the third was Camilla. That single admission cracked the fairy tale, exposing the loneliness and pain Diana carried in a marriage that had been celebrated as a perfect union. To the public, Diana became the wronged princess, the woman who had been betrayed, while Camilla became the other woman, the rival who had stolen what was meant to be pure. Even after Diana's tragic death, the story didn't end. If anything, it grew more complicated.
The world is in shock. Diana, Princess of Wales, is dead, and Britain is in mourning. The 36-year-old princess was killed in a high-speed car chase in Paris early Sunday morning Australian time.
When Charles married Camilla years later, it was far from a smooth path to acceptance. Many resisted the idea that she could ever be anything more than his companion. The notion of her becoming queen seemed impossible, almost offensive, to those who still adored Diana. Newspapers were filled with angry letters, and crowds often looked at her with suspicion rather than admiration. Time, however, has a way of softening sharp edges. Slowly, Camilla began to rebuild her image, supporting charities, avoiding drama, and showing a quieter side of herself. Yet no matter how much effort Camilla put into shaping her role, the rivalry never truly ended. Every time she stepped into the spotlight, Diana's ghost was there. When Camilla wore a dazzling gown, people compared it to Diana's unforgettable style. When she smiled during public appearances, it was measured against Diana's warmth. When she took on royal duties, critics asked if she could ever match Diana's natural connection to the people. It wasn't just that Diana was beloved, it was that her memory became the standard against which Camilla would always be judged. This is why the laughter at Diana's portrait carried such force. It wasn't simply an awkward moment. It was symbolic. For those who still see Camilla as Diana's rival, it felt like an insult to the memory of the woman they still call the people's princess. In an instant, years of careful work to soften Camilla's image were overshadowed by the reminder of a rivalry that never truly healed. One laugh was enough to reignite old wounds, stirring up the anger and grief that had never been fully buried. For Catherine, this is not a rivalry she can distance herself from. It isn't just history, it is her daily reality. She wears Diana's ring on her finger every day. She raises Diana's grandson with the weight of public expectation resting on her shoulders. And she must navigate life inside a palace where Camilla now sits as queen. Catherine is caught between these two legacies, forced to protect Diana's memory while also showing respect to Camilla, who shares the throne with her father-in-law. It is a delicate balance, a line she must walk carefully, and moments like this laugh threaten to undo years of that careful effort. The truth is, Camilla and Diana's story was never just about two women. It was about power, love, betrayal, and legacy. And Catherine, whether she wanted it or not, has inherited the burden of living in the shadow of that unfinished rivalry. What this means for the monarchy's future. The British monarchy has always rested on three fragile pillars: image, tradition, and respect. Without them, the crown itself begins to lose its shine. The royal family does not rule by power in the modern world. It rules by perception. Every smile, every gesture, every word, and every silence is carefully watched, weighed, and remembered, by millions. That is why when moments of tension slip through the cracks, they don't simply disappear. They echo, reminding the public that behind the polished pageantry, there are real divisions. Catherine's collapse was one such moment. It was not just a personal response to an uncomfortable situation. It became a symbol. To many, it revealed cracks within the royal family that had long been hidden beneath ceremony and protocol. And those cracks are dangerous because the monarchy cannot afford to look weak. For an institution that depends on unity and continuity, a single sign of internal struggle can send ripples far beyond palace walls. The questions began almost immediately. If Catherine, the woman widely seen as the future of the monarchy, the one who embodies dignity, warmth, and modern grace, cannot bear the weight of Diana's legacy and Camilla's presence, what does that mean for the crown itself? Catherine has always been admired for her composure, for her ability to represent stability in uncertain times. But if even she falters, the public cannot help but wonder about the future. The truth is, the monarchy thrives only when it appears united. Yet the divisions remain impossible to ignore. Diana's memory continues to live powerfully in the minds of the people. She is not simply remembered, she is revered. For millions, she will forever be the standard of what a princess and perhaps even a queen should be. And Catherine, by virtue of her role and her choices, has become Diana's heir in spirit. The comparisons are constant and the expectations unrelenting. Every step she takes is measured against Diana's memory, whether she wants it or not. On the other side stands Camilla, who, after decades of public resistance, now wears the crown as queen. While she has earned some degree of acceptance, her very presence is a reminder of past betrayals and controversies. Her laugh at Diana's portrait, innocent or not, tore open a wound that never fully healed. It reignited rivalries the palace had long tried to bury, and it reminded the world that the monarchy is not as unshakable as it likes to appear. For the monarchy, this is far more than idle gossip. It is a warning. The past cannot be erased, no matter how many ceremonies are held or how carefully the palace manages its image. Diana's shadow will always linger, and the way the royal family chooses to honor or dismiss that legacy will determine how the public views them moving forward. If Catherine falters, the risk is not just personal, it is institutional. The people may begin to question not only her strength, but also the very stability of the crown itself. And once doubt seeps in, it spreads quickly. For an institution built on centuries of tradition, the greatest threat is not rebellion, but disillusionment. The image of Catherine collapsing after Camilla's laugh will not be forgotten anytime soon. It was more than a reaction, it was a revelation. A reminder that the palace, despite its gold and grandeur, is built on fragile emotions, human flaws, and unresolved histories. Catherine has carried Diana's legacy with dignity, but moments like these show just how heavy that burden is. Camilla, whether she meant harm or not, stirred a storm that exposed the tensions still alive in the monarchy. The laugh was brief, but the impact was lasting. What does the future hold? Will Catherine rise stronger from this, reclaiming her composure as the people's hope for the crown? Or will the whispers of rivalry continue to shadow her every step? Only time will tell. One thing is certain, Diana's presence is as powerful now as it was decades ago, and Catherine's story cannot be told without her. Thank you for staying with us through this journey into the unseen world of the royals. If you found this story as gripping as we did, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice matters, and we'll be here to bring you the truths others won't dare to tell.